ABCD is a trapezoid. M is the midpoint of AB. N is the midpoint of CD. And E is the meeting point of AC and BD. Okay. So here we have A, B, C, D is a trapezoid. M is the midpoint of AB. And N is the midpoint of CD. Okay. We have E is the intersection of AC and BD. So here we have point E. Okay. Now, the question يشبه اللي كنا عم نشتغله قبل شوي. Use an appropriate system of axes to show that M, E, and N are collinear. You have to prove that M, E, and N are collinear using certain system of axes. Good luck. Yes? Any idea? Of course, here when you choose the system, you have to choose it in a way and you can find the coordinates of the points in an easy way. أو بمعنى تاني the remaining vectors you can write it in terms of the أنت مثلا في آخد في أنا هون vector or system AB and AD. هذا السيستم ما حدا بيمنع ياخد هيك، حدا ياخد هيك، ما حدا له معك. But for example, can you find AE in terms of AB and AD? No. Of course, in order to find coordinates of any point, you have to write it in terms of I and J, or you write to find the vector, I mean, A, this point, in terms of I and J. ما حدا بيمنعك. But can you find it? I can consider the system D, DCDA, DCDA. ما حدا بيمنعك. طيب بس كمان نفس الموضوع انه can find DE in terms of DC and DA. Points M and M مش مسلف همه. لأنه mid points. Once you find coordinates of A, B, then you simply can find coordinates of point M. And similarly for point N, once you have points DC, you can find coordinates of point N. Okay. بس بيضل عندك هودي 2 points يعني. For example, in the system DCDA, we still have point N and point B. ده الموضوع كيف البوينت N والبوينت B coordinates of N and B. مش معقول لك انه ما فينا بلا، بس في شيء اسهل من غيره. طيب which system is the best to use here?
What if we use point E? No, it's common between AB and DC.
So in the system, E, okay, here we have the origin. What about the vectors? Of course, here you have to use two non-collinear or two vectors of different directions.
I took EB and EC.
ED and EC?
EB and EC.
EB and EC. You can. Why don't you take, or why don't you take EB and EA? طبعا EB EC صح. ما في شيء غلط.
Yes, okay.
بس هلا بقول لك ليش انه هيدا اريح شوي بالكتابه. EBEA EBEA. طيب. First of all, E will have coordinates 0, 0. B, what will be the coordinates of point B? What are the coordinates of point B in the system E, EB, EA?
0, 1.
1, 0. B, head, with I. EB, it is I. 1, 0. هيدا I. وهيدا J. EB is equal to 1 I. EB, it is 1 I. Then B has coordinates 1, 0. And what about point A?
0, 1.
EA is equal to J, or 1J. The coordinates of A will be 0, 1. Right. Point M, هيني. XA plus XB over 2, YA plus YB over 2. Point M, midpoint of AB. Then M will have the coordinates 1 over 2, 1 over 2. You can check. I'm not going to rewrite it again. Right. We still have D and C. How to find the coordinates of D and C? Once you find coordinates of D and C, then simply you can find coordinates of point N, because N is the midpoint of DC.
We take another.
0.
Sorry? Repeat, please.
I said D هي K0 and C هي 0K.
What is K?
Miss, we should take another system, صح?
لا, in the same system. السيستم بيكون لكل exercise.
Okay.
لأنه if you change the system, the coordinates of EBA كله بيتغير. رح يجي دوره هلا كمان translation of system. إذا بغير السيستم بيتغير كل شيء. يعني for example here, point E in the system EEA EB or EBEA, the coordinates of E is are 0, 0. Right. But if you consider the system D, DCDA, in this system, coordinates of E will not be 0 or 0, 0. If you change the system, coordinates كلهم بيتغير.
Yes.
طيب.
بس فيك ترجع تعيد شو قلت عطشت الآن.
كانت عم بتقول لين انه ناخذ سيستم ثاني. And to find coordinates D and C, خلينا ناخذ سيستم ثاني ونجيب الكوردينيتس ل D and C. قبل لا لانه if you change the system هودي كلياتهم بيتغيروا. هودي D, E, B, A والM كلهم بيتغيروا. ما في كل نقطة باخذها بسيستم واقعد اشتغل على اساس. إذا هيك كل سيستم مثلا بدي بوينت A باخذ سيستم A شو ما بدي A B A M. AB ما فينا ناخذ اياه من كلية AB AD point A has coordinate 0 0 but the point C okay ناخذ C CB CD ولا ساعتها البوينت C has coordinate 0 0 ساعتها كل البوينتس بطلع لك اياهم 0 0 اذا في غير بالسيستم مثل ما بدي لا انا بدي اجيب coordinates للبوينتس لكل البوينتس بنفس السيستم. In the same system, you have to find the coordinates of the points. You
Yes.
can choose any system you like. Okay.
اوكي أستاذ.
Feel free to take any system. But once you choose the system, you have to find the coordinates sorry, of all the points in the same system you choose. طيب. The same idea, Thales theorem. ED over EB, ED over EB is equal to EC over EA. هيدا Thales. Of course, here, once Thales theorem, of course, here because lines AB, since AB is parallel to DC, because ABCD is a trapezoid. So I can say it's also equal to a constant K. Then ED is equal to K. ED is equal to KEB. And EC, use the cross product, is equal to KEA. But what about the vectors? Vector ED is equal to what, EB?
K is negative, I guess.
Good. Here, K is positive number because here we are talking about segments, measures, distance. So K is positive number. But here, vector ED and EB have opposite signs. EB and ED have opposite signs. So here you have to write negative K, EB. And EC, it's negative K, EA. If you want to explain something here, vectors EB and EA, EB and ED have opposite signs. Similarly for vector EC and EA have opposite signs. So هيك حطينا negative. طيب, so what will be the coordinates of point D and coordinates of point C? For point D, ED is equal negative KEB. Yeah, negative K هيدي I ولا J؟ الEB. شايفينها؟
It's I.
يعني هاي it's negative KI in brackets. يعني coordinates of D will be negative K0. And here it's equal to negative K EA هي J. So 0 negative K. واضح؟
Yes.
Okay. Now point N is the midpoint of DC. This means that point N has coordinates negative K over 2. كمان negative K over 2. Now you have point N, you have point M, and you have point E. Check whether they are collinear or not. Apply the rule and determine if these points are collinear or not. That's it. ما رح اطول عليكم، بعتقد انتم عندكم صف 6 الساعه 12:30.